There's a new poll that came out that had Trump at a 29% favorability rating. Now, you mix that with his 91 criminal charges, the fact that he was just found liable of fraud and he'll face up to a $250 million fine and he's losing his business license in New York. The fact that he said things like, I'm going to suspend the Constitution. The fact that he wants to weaponize our Justice Department and our legal system to go after all of his political enemies. The fact that he's now totally committed to this idea of revenge and retaliation and retribution against Democrats and liberals because of what he feels like he is unjustly going through with a witch hunt. Got all these things together. And look, it paints a pretty dire picture. Now, to be fair, there's also polls that just came out that have Biden getting crushed by Trump in like 6 of the 7 swing states. And Trump's up like 5 or something on Biden nationally. Really, really damaging, devastating polls. But really, that's more of a reflection on how bad Biden is. It's not a reflection on how good Trump is. Because a generic Democrat is up 8 points on Trump. So you got a record disliked candidate in Biden and Trump. And what you have here are some Republicans who are basically trying to warn Republican voters. Hey, man, iceberg dead ahead. Look out. And the Republican crowd here, this is the GOP Freedom Summit in Florida, they are not having any negative words about their overlord, emperor, god, king, Donald Trump. So here's Asa Hutchinson trying to build a case, and as you'll see here, they do not want to hear it. Watch this.
As someone who's been in the courtroom for over 25 years as a federal prosecutor and also in defending some of the most serious federal criminal cases, I can say that there is a significant likelihood that Donald Trump will be found guilty by a jury on a felony offense next year.
Now, look, let's be clear. Is he biased in the sense that he has a reason to make this argument because he's running for president? Yes. But is what he's saying objectively true? Yes, it's true. Like you said, he's been involved in this for a long time. He thinks it's likely Trump is going to be convicted of a felony. He's just saying what he thinks will happen. And they're like, boo, 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 facts of reality. Boo, we're against them. Boo.
That may or may not happen before you vote in March. And it might not make any difference to you, but it will make a difference for our chances to attract independent voters in November.
Look, this is like a dad trying to talk to their unruly, annoying, spoiled brat kid. That's what this reminds me of. That's what this reminds me. No, little Timmy, you can't have your 5th piece of candy. You already had 4. We can't have... Dad, I hate you, Dad! Like, that's what this is. He's trying to explain, like, look, you might not care, but independent voters are going to care. This is actually a problem. Anybody other than Trump is way more electable. Boo!
Make a difference for those down ticket races for Congress and Senate, and it will weaken the GOP for decades to come. As a party, we must support the rule of law. We cannot win as a country without integrity in the White House. And while some will ignore the destructive behavior of the former president, I assure you, we ignore it at our own peril. The next generation will not look favorably back on this time.
Yeah, and look, also, just the fact that the dude really did try to get rid of the peaceful transfer of power in this country, that, that should be disqualifying across the board, right? And it's not for these Republican voters. They makes them like him more, maybe. So, at this point, I would, even generic Democrat versus generic Republican, I would much rather have that than have Trump versus Biden. But look, Asa's getting booed to Ada, as I like to call him for certain reasons. He's getting booed nonstop for this. Now let's go to Christie at the same event, and you're not going to be surprised to learn Christie is perhaps a little more aggressive than Asa in making effectively the same case. Watch this.
Yeah. Well, now it feels like home. Thank you all very much. Let me first thank the chairman and everyone here. Yep. Look. What a shock. You're for Trump. I'm going to fall over dead. Now look. Every one of those boos every one of those catcalls, every one of those yells will not keep it, yes, sure, will not solve one problem we face in this country, will not solve, and will not make this country better. Your anger against the truth is reprehensible.
This is catnip to the CNN and MSNBC crowd. They're like, yes, Christie, yes, we love you. I just orgasm, yes. But look, to be fair, like, he's right. Like, the extent to which the hardcore Republican base is obsessed with Trump, it is absolutely like a cult leader, without a doubt. And for Asa to point that out, for Christie to point that out, is fair game. And it's fair game to say, hey, he's probably going to go to prison. He's 91 criminal charges. This is the guy you want to hinge the future of the Republican Party and the country to? It's almost like they're trying to wake them up. It's just like that there's a spell cast over them. He's trying to break the spell, but it's just so hopeless, right?
When you think about the problems that our country and this world is facing, when you think about that, this type of pettiness is beneath the process of electing a president. Yeah. And as people watch today, if your arguments are so strong, if your arguments are so great, and mine are so bad, then just keep quiet. Let me make my awful arguments, and then you can just reject them out of hand. But the problem is you fear the truth.
I mean, look, fair enough, right? There's some things where I disagree way more with Christie than I disagree with Trump. Like, Christie is more wrong on certain issues than Trump is, but on the most important issue, which is should we continue to have a peaceful transfer of power, Christie's right and Trump is wrong. And look, the audience, they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear anything negative about Trump, even if it's a super nuanced policy disagreement. Not interested. They made their mind up. And for them, look, the bottom line is this. It's all about feels for them. It's all about the vibes. This is a vibes primary, and Trump is the king of the vibes. Trump is the king of the I'm triggering the libs, I'm triggering the leftists, all the people you hate, I make mad at me, so I'm a vessel for your hatred. He knows how to crowd surf. He knows how to use the emotion of the audience to harness it for his political ends. Even though he's a charlatan, even though he's a con man, even though he's a fraud, even though he's a criminal, they don't care. They don't care. And that is a terrifying prospect. Because look at how sober and reasonable Asa was. They don't want to hear it. And look at how angry Christie is. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. Not interested. Not interested. So we've never been in a place like this before in U.S. history, ever. Guy who tried to overturn the last election, 91 criminal charges, leading by a mile and a half, not only in the Republican primary, but now leading in the general by a lot too. Terrifying. Terrifying. Any of us should be willing to give anything for a generic Democrat versus Republican over this. That's how bad this is. Do you have any idea what I would give to have it back to like an Obama versus Romney type race? As bad as they both were? At least you weren't worrying about like, oh, one of the guys is going to just make us a military dictatorship if he wins. That wasn't on the table, right? Oh, boy. Anyway, there you have it. Christie and berating a Republican crowd to their face. Asa Hutchinson trying to talk some sense into them, and none of it making even the slightest dent. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.